think
Jones.
Zach Wilson's a bust. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
As he says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend."
I refuse.
Brian Robinson, many men, they wish death upon him.
And I think Rob's going head first into the pavement.
Bobby, how does the fucking pavement taste, buddy?
He's that guy. He's Timothy.
No, Saquon!
Absolutely no reason for him to think he can have any chance of being a playoff team.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Nation. I'm here with the Commish, who has never been on Dynasty Nation before, which is actually kind of crazy. But Andy Fems, about time we got you on Dynasty Nation, man. How's it going, bro?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Rogaz. I would like to let everyone know I am accepting the $1 million payment a la Aaron Rodgers. So thanks to Kev's generous payment, I will be here speaking to the masses. So you can thank Rogaz for that one.
Beautiful. Yeah, man. But boys, I know I say this all the time, and all of the new viewers potentially. If you guys are into fantasy football, specifically Dynasty, we'll be pumping out content every week. So go ahead, throw us a like, consider subscribing. I'm sure a lot of you guys are fantasy delinquents like us. It's a beautiful thing out here. But with that, Andrew, we have a lot to catch up on, man. A lot going on in the NFL. Last week, Justin was on. He helped co-host, and we totally glossed over probably the most crucial injury to happen. So it's kind of fitting that now you're here as the diehard Vikings fan, man. But Justin Jefferson, bro, on IR with a hamstring injury. So how we feeling, man?
Yeah, it's certainly sad to see. It should be a season killer, but in Vikings fashion, it probably won't be. It's probably a season killer for me too. They built their offense around Justin Jefferson. So when he's not playing, their offense is terrible. So it's bad for your boy in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously Andrew with having Jefferson on his dynasty team and being a Vikings fan, so it obviously hits twice as hard. So brutal, man, brutal. But just this past week, another pretty significant injury, or at least to a significant player. Definitely not as significant, but Christian McCaffrey. Supposedly had like an oblique injury, potential rib involvement. They play Monday night this week, the 49ers do, so he actually might not miss time, but just definitely something to be mindful of, something going on.
Yeah, and CMC, it's usually a waiting game of when he's going to get hurt. I think he gets nicked up every year, but I don't know. I think the 49ers can afford to hold him out for a week or two, and I think Bobby can too. I think they'll probably go to Mason a lot. I've been seeing a lot of that. So they'll figure it out. And I think that this is something you just take with McCaffrey and you accept that this is going to happen.
Yeah. Obviously, when he's on the field, he's literally the greatest fantasy player probably ever, code. Maybe ever. I don't know.
It's a gambling cheat code too. You look at his anytime touchdown is like minus 200. It's ridiculous.
It's stupid, man. Yeah. So lock to score whenever he plays. It's crazy. Another, on the 49ers, but Debo has had a shoulder injury, I believe. We'll see how significant that is. And really, if he's out, that'll obviously be huge for Ayuk. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. I didn't even see the injury, but I don't know if it was that significant, but I think he should play, I think.
Yeah, and going back to, I of course had Debo. I traded him. And you can't predict injuries, especially in football at all for fantasy, but Debo is someone that's going to pop up on the injury report every year. And it can be frustrating, but again, team like Carmine can probably afford that.
Yeah, for sure. Carmine, I know his calling card for this year, going into this year, the depth is through the roof. So,
going back to Jefferson, he's going to have the Jefferson injury is going to open things up for Addison. Yeah. He's going to be the big play guy. Osborne will be the target guy. Mm-hmm. And that's really all they have outside of Hawkinson. We'll get to it later, but Madison cannot catch the ball, and that's a problem right now.
Yeah. But I would say honestly, the Vikings right now. The Vikings are what, 1-5?
No, they beat the Bears.
That's right.
Dominant over an undrafted rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
They'll snake their way into 7-10.
Yeah.
a record like that. So
Yeah, that's the thing. The Vikings, like you said, typical like Vikings fashion. Like they'll just find a way to win games when they probably shouldn't. I mean, obviously the uncertainty with Kirk, we can really get into it if we really wanted. But
yeah, we don't have to make it a Vikings
yeah,
podcast. We can get on to the next injury.
yeah.
Uh,
Moving on here. I would say probably the most like major injury that happened. Anthony Richardson. He got hurt. Last week, but it was kind of like up in the air, like what the significance really could be. There's talks now potentially season ending if he does go through a surgery on his throwing shoulder. So he's like a grade 3, I believe it's a sprain, grade might have some tearing going on. Yeah. So if he does go through a surgery, which honestly I do think he should.
Me too. I think it's exactly a
Yeah.
smart move. It's better for the Colts. They'll delay things by a year because they actually looked good with Anthony Richardson. They
Yeah.
look like they're the starting of a good team. So this will give them probably a better draft pick. They won't have to have any pressure this year.
Right.
He'll get healthy. I think didn't Joe Burrow get hurt his rookie year too? I know it
Yeah.
was later on, but
Right. Yep.
sometimes it's the rookie year. You've seen what you needed to see out of him in terms of potential. He's not solidified, but as long as it's just he got hurt every week, so you
That's the
can't see
thing,
that
man.
moving forward.
He and I saw they were talking about should he change the way he plays even as a rookie already. We're asking that question. Like that's tough. I mean, he's gonna do what he's good at, obviously, and he's gonna do what he thinks is the best way to help the team win, obviously. So that's like really tough for the Colts and for Richardson. But I mean, I hope the best for him. I mean, I'm not the biggest Richardson fan, but I mean, the way he plays is obviously very exciting. And I said going in for our rookie draft, by far had the most upside out of any player in that draft. So, definitely a tough break for him, for Jimmy in our league.
Is it?
And,
I mean, if
well,
he's
yeah.
constantly injured, but if not, and at this point, if Jimmy's looking towards lowering his max points for, he doesn't have to throw Richardson on the IR really. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a play there. I think he does have him on the IR. I could be mistaken, but I think it's kind of the perfect timing. If there is going to be 1 year, he's going to be banged up and just be out for the year for Jimmy and for the Colts. More importantly, obviously for the Colts in real
Right.
life.
Yeah.
This is the time that
Yeah.
he'll go down, but it's going to be about staying on the field for him.
For sure, man. We'll definitely see how the rest of his career plays out, obviously. But moving on, another player with injury. Well, 2 players on the same team. We got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 backs there. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Montgomery killing it this year. So to see him go down, I mean, tough break. And Gibbs is just getting the DeAndre Swift treatment, just not getting that usage that you want to see out of him. And, just kind of frustrating.
And it seems like Gibbs or not, Craig Reynolds is going to play a factor because he's going to step into that role. And I think there was a clip going around from Hard Knocks where Dan Campbell was looking to cut Craig Reynolds, and a lot of the coaching staff was praising him. So they have his back. The O-line apparently loves him, and he's a blocker. I don't know if you saw that block he came in and made.
Actually. Yeah. Crazy.
And I think that goes unnoticed in fantasy, but it doesn't go unnoticed in the NFL. Like that guy's going to have a spot on a team, and maybe he has more value even if he's putting up zeros for 5 weeks at a time. But he's a guy who can replace a starter, and not every rookie is that. Regardless of what we want to think, a rookie might be number 2 on the depth chart. There might be an injury, and they might stay number 2. Some of those guys they're going to keep their workload. So
right.
We'll see what Craig Reynolds can do. He's old, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will pick him up off waivers.
Yeah, no one bid more than $4 though. That sounds like too much. $4 sounds like too much. I think that's my bid, but yeah, don't bid more than $4. No.
So obviously, when this comes out, I mean, bids will already be done. But we're recording this on a Tuesday. It'll go through on Wednesday night or Wednesday morning. So we'll see who ends up with Craig Reynolds. But moving on, Kyron Williams, man, on the Rams, suffered an ankle injury. So
and Ronnie Rivers out.
And Ronnie Rivers as well. I think his is actually more significant too.
I think it was PCL.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep. So I mean, Kyron, I mean, he's been having a great season. And to see him go down, I mean, really tough break for Rob, who's kind of been a bit of a fairy tale story once again this year. I don't know. This might be the start of it all kind of crashing and burning, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, you can't say anything bad about Kyron Williams. Clearly he's performed and he's produced, but I do worry that, the Rams are running him into the ground. They
Yeah.
had games where he was on the field for 100% of the snaps.
Yep.
And I think he's very useful this year.
Mhm.
But if they're going to use him like that, I don't know. And it sounds like, and I'll say this now because you said this is coming out later, but they just I think signed Royce Freeman.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to throw everything, like I said, at a rookie. I think Zach Evans will have a role, but they're going to want a guy they can run into the ground. And if they like Zach Evans, maybe they don't put him in that role.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, man, because I was saying last week with Justin, like the Rams, like, they really just use that one guy. And that's like in this day and age in this NFL, like a lot of teams implement those multiple backs, have some form of a committee or some resemblance of a committee. And the Rams are one of those only teams that really don't. Like look at the Titans. Obviously Derrick Henry is like a career workhorse back, but Tajay Spears gets a lot of work in Tennessee too now. So just kind of been a changing of the kind of the mentality, but the Rams are kind of still that old school, like one guy workhorse. But yeah, like you said, we'll see how it works out long term. I know obviously Rob is very invested. He thinks dynasty wise. I don't mean to put him on the spot here, but he thinks value wise, Kyron and Achan are one and the same. So
yeah, I'm looking at it now. He was at 65% first week, and then 95%, 100%.
Yeah.
72%. I think that's a game they were blowing out Indy.
Right, yeah.
And then, back up to the 80s, which isn't crazy, but yeah, I guess we'll see what they do with two running backs going down at the same time.
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't think they're going to put that all on the rookie.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, man, for sure. Another injury to talk about, pretty significant enough where he's definitely going to miss some time. Justin Fields, man. So I mean, the story on him, his story is not definitive by any means, but the ups and downs with him are crazy, man. At one time you think, oh my God, he's the truth. This guy's him. Next thing you know, he's looking like he'll be out of the league within the next possession. Like
I think that's the trap people fall into, myself included. You're dying for a superstar. Maybe that's just what he is. Maybe he's an up and down quarterback that can win you games and lose you games.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's injury prone. It seems like a freak injury. I think he got sacked by Danielle Hunter, who's a monster, and dropped on his hand. So, yeah, maybe sometimes he's obviously a good fantasy quarterback, and maybe he's just an okay regular quarterback that's gonna look terrible some days, and other days he's unstoppable. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. So, it's tough to tell.
Yeah, obviously he's got supreme talent. Obviously, his athleticism is off the charts, but throwing ability is still But yeah, fantasy wise, he could be a top 5 fantasy quarterback easily. Like just the way he plays, it's like crazy. But I won't go too in depth with him because I think he probably only missed the one game, but we'll definitely see. Another injury that happened, another quarterback, Jimmy G. Kind of had a scary back injury, and anything with the back, I mean, I'm already like, that's scary to hear. So, but they say that he quote unquote dodged a bullet. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot worse.
To the hospital.
Yeah,
he was in the hospital.
He was in the hospital. Yep. So, good to hear that it's not anything major, and his season's not over. But yeah, scary to hear anything with the back for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe his 3rd injury of the year too. So not a great start for Jim. I mean, he was hurt before he got there.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, literally, that was like one of the storylines going into the year. Like, oh, what Devontae Adams stock down? Like,
I gotta wonder what happened in that physical, because I think it was the physical that held things up.
Yeah, exactly.
They must have seen something they didn't like, and I don't know. Yeah, 3 injuries. I think this year is not looking good, and I don't know. I don't know what the Raiders' record is.
I think they have 3 wins. I think actually, believe it or not.
So yeah, it's tough. I guess you can't sell on the season yet. You gotta
No,
hope he gets back.
right?
Because I don't think they want to put it in O'Connell's hands.
No, they're above the Chargers right now. So and
Well,
so they're second in that division.
the Chargers have losing in their blood too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's actually terrible. But moving on, I don't want to get too in depth. I'll make me sad about my guy Herbert. But the last little piece of news, non-injury related, Julio Jones back from the dead, signing with the Eagles. Depending on how they use him, if they even use him, if he's just there as a veteran presence. I don't know, Andrew. What do you think? What do you think? How the Eagles going to deploy Julio?
I don't think he's going to be used much. Obviously, who knows? We'll probably have a week or two where it's like, oh, Julio's back. Look what he can do,
Mm-hmm.
because he is going to be what, the fourth passing option. He's
Yeah.
not going to be. I mean, AJ Brown's the number one, unfortunately for some people, fortunately for others.
Yeah.
Devonta Smith is still there. Goddard, they've been finally going to lately. And
Yeah.
obviously even Swift, they throw the ball to Swift. So
Yeah.
maybe he's just a veteran presence. I think he was close with AJ Brown. So
Yeah. No, for sure. They obviously were teammates on the Titans. They seem to get along well, and he's obviously kind of like that big brother figure. Yeah, I mean, obviously a team looking to get back to the Super Bowl that the Eagles are, obviously. You add a guy like Julio who, he's been in a Super Bowl. So yeah,
he could play a small role, could mean a lot to them.
right.
But
Down the line, yeah, who knows, man. But with all that out of the way, that's all our recap. We definitely had a lot of injuries, and I'm sure more to come. It's just this season's just been devastating with the injuries.
Yeah.
It won't stop. It's crazy this year, man. But that's all what we have for our intro stuff. Getting right into it, man. Got to recap week 6, man. So let's start with matchup of the week, man. Let's get right into it here. We had Bijan Mustardson getting the win over Senia's Greatness to Be Determined. Jason winning this one 154.62 to 106.82. Definitely ended up being a bit more lopsided than maybe we thought going in.
well, he got a big help from Mr. Mostert himself.
Oh yeah.
Definitely proving that that's going to be helpful to him, and especially with A-Chain down. You never know how long Mostert's going to. I thought it was A-Chain. Listen.
Hey, he had to make sure all you guys came correct. You know what I'm saying?
Apologies to Mr. A-Chain. Apologies to Mr. Devon. But no, Jason's having a great year. His team's definitely up and down. I think it's going to go with the health of his young running backs, and Lamar has up and down weeks, but I mean, there's just plenty of guys that show up on his team, even guys that I probably wrote off in my head. I'm looking at it now, like Pittman.
Yeah,
he just continues to be a PPR monster.
Yep.
And now Kareem Hunt, maybe that trade not as lopsided as it seemed. 'Cause I think he's going to get the majority of the reps moving forward.
I agree, man. I think I mean, I was never sold on Jerome Ford. Even just saying that name out loud, I'm like, Jerome Ford. Like, is this a guy we really think is going to be something sustainable post Chubb? I don't think so. Kareem Hunt, I think as soon as he came back, it was like he knows the system. Talent wise, it's like Kareem Hunt. Like, I think he'll be more sustainable long term. But yeah, man, I definitely think that's a sight that we can get used to moving forward. I know that Richie doesn't like to hear that. He just acquired Jerome Ford in a trade, but yeah, man, I think he'll be pretty good. Hunt.
Yeah, and on the other side, I think that this is I don't think Senia's season is going to be like this all the time. I think that he had a lot of tough weeks from a lot of guys this week. His quarterback, he's just had bad luck with.
Yeah,
I don't think you're going to see many 10-point Eckler weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of upside with his team. I think he got scared of starting Amari Cooper. I think I did in a league.
Mm-hmm.
But Senia's team is definitely not dead.
No, it's not dead. It's it's just so up and down. By far the most up and down team I would say this season. I mean, fresh off of a 49-point bomb by DJ Moore, follows it up with 10 points. You know, like that's really frustrating. Like you said, you mentioned Eckler, first game back, 10 points. I mean, it's just crazy. You're still getting like solid contributions from Kelsey, from Henry, which is what you expect. But I mean, he's starting Gabe Davis, which I don't know. I was never really a big fan. I thought last year he was going to break out and didn't really happen. After that, I kind of like fell off. But I don't
He's
know.
had a lot of
Starting,
touchdowns this year, though.
yeah,
He's
he's a
he's
touchdown
been
guy.
hot. Sometimes you ride the hot hand.
Yeah,
But you know, just looking at the standings, there's a log jam going for probably for that last playoff spot,
yep,
and could be really any of the four teams if you want to throw Grogan in the mix because he's one game out. Even Rosinski's one game out. I
right.
don't think he's trending that way, but
Yeah,
yeah, you never know. I think up and down, it's just gonna be if he gets up at the right time.
yeah, and obviously don't count yourself out either, man. You're right there
We'll
too.
get there.
So yeah, but so yeah, I guess since I just mentioned it, your team, unfortunately, Andrew, you did take the loss this week, losing a game that we all kind of said going into it was a must win for Rich. But Andy, you did take the loss this week, 111.96 to Rags to Riches, winning this one with 133.98. So obviously Richie, really, I would say the player of the game for him is obviously Tua having a good game against the lowly Panthers, who have yet to win a game. The last team to win, still 0-6. So yeah, what was your takeaways from this matchup?
Yeah, I mean Richie's team. I think it was exactly what should have happened. Richie's team did what it should have. Mine probably did too.
Yeah.
I think I second guessed myself on some lineups for the first time, not having like a set lineup in my head going into the week.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that this just proves, my team could probably still beat some teams any week. And Richie's obviously, like I said, any of the top 7 teams right now without Jefferson for me, I look way worse on paper.
Yeah.
But any of those teams can be primed for a big week. So right now, yeah, things are just not trending up for Chrome Future. But Richie's stocked with players. It's really just going to be about when they show up.
Right.
And this is with 1 point from Kittle. So
Yeah. And I mean, I just gotta say, man, Josh Allen. I mean, obviously, I don't know if most of the viewers, if you didn't know, like I'm a diehard Giants fan, and the Giants are bad. Like they're a bad team. Obviously, you got the Dayball connection, former on the Bills, but to see Josh Allen look that, just not good, not good is what the nice way to say it. And
yeah,
I thought for sure Josh Allen was going to go like 20, 25 plus for you, and ended up only
no,
dropping 13.86. I mean,
no, I'm
I don't
doing some
know.
research. Just making sure I'm not wrong here. The Bills, what did they do last week? They
Against
played
Jaguars.
the Jaguars, right? Where was that
Yep.
game?
London.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Okay. All right. But then they come home and, get time to prepare against a bad team.
That's jet lag, baby. I mean, listen, we could talk about Josh Allen has up and downs. I'm not saying he's flawless, but yeah, he struggled in this game. I think that there's definitely something to the London back and forth travel, and I think
Fair.
we'll see that. I think we'll see that this week, if I'm not wrong. Was there? I think. Well,
Yeah,
I'm not this week. Last week, I
Yeah.
think the Titans went
Yep.
to London a few
Yep.
days later,
Mhm.
and they got spanked by Baltimore. I think that definitely plays into effect. I think teams going west plays into effect. It's not fun or sexy to talk about, but I'll make an excuse for Josh Allen here.
I mean,
It was an
honestly,
ugly game. It was
it
an
was a
ugly game.
very ugly game. Giants should have won, but that's another story. But
Should have ran the ball. They should have Marshawn Lynched.
I don't disagree with that. That's and I mean the way the first half ended. Oh,
At the end of the game, we'll talk about that for 1 second, because at the end of the game,
Yeah.
you put the ball in your best player's hand, and
Agreed.
Tyrod Taylor to Darren Waller are not your 2 best players. So
Yeah. No, I agree. Should have gone to Saquon and live or die
they
by
should have
that.
won.
That's it, man. But yeah, obviously, a must-win game for Rich, and he did get it done. Keeping his playoff hopes alive. Obviously, it's still very early, but like we're saying, it's very nip and tuck right now. So every game matters for sure. But the next matchup here, Bob's the Redeem team, winning this one back-to-back weeks, leading the league in scoring. So we'll get into it when it gets to the power rankings, but definitely making some statements right now for sure. Bob winning this one 157.10 over Gunnar Grogan, putting up 141.42. And I said last week with Justin, I did not think this would be close, and Rob put up a fight, man.
Yeah, Rob has hit on a lot of the moves he's made, especially recently. And a lot like, guys like Goff, not a sexy name, but puts up big points. Pacheco, he kind of stuck with him. He's putting up numbers now.
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a stud. He made it close, but Bobby's just been also hitting on every move. Even moves like Kamara. He's just getting every target. Keenan Allen is unstoppable. So Bobby's team is a force, and it's like my team in Rosinski last year, where we could run people over with a dud in the quarterback spot. You can afford that when you have that many players. We'll see. He should be able to obviously survive McCaffrey. I'm looking at his team now. His team is going to move with the Jets. That's going to be what determines if he's truly elite or if he's just going to be a high scoring team.
Yeah. I will just say, I do think obviously Kamara is playing out of his mind right now. I don't anticipate this level of consistency to be throughout the entire year. People are going to laugh at this, but names like Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller, because right now it's only Kamara, literally. He's dominating all the running back touches, essentially, literally every touch, and getting all the targets, which is not new. Obviously, Kamara is a very good receiving back, but averaging 19, 20, 21 carries a game, which was never really his game. He would usually be, 13, 14 carries, but then the 7, 8 receptions to go with it and just be super efficient. His efficiency is way down, Kamara, but he's getting the usage. And in fantasy wise, who cares about efficiency if you're scoring touchdowns, and scoring points? So
I'm looking at it now. He has 25 targets in 3 games, and he has
absurd.
23 catches.
Yeah, that's absurd.
So
I don't see this sustaining for the entire year for him. But still a very good running back. Obviously, he's historically great. And like you said, Keenan Allen, he's on another level right now. Obviously, his only thing is just the injury concerns, but it's tough to say what player doesn't have that. But I like Keenan Allen a lot. I've always been a fan of his, and obviously, as a Justin Herbert owner, I hope Keenan Allen does stay healthy because he's absolutely huge for Herbert. Yeah, man. Like you said with the Jets, a big week out of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Ended up being a huge upset over the Eagles, winning against the Eagles, which, me being in Pennsylvania for school right now, no one anything could say could hurt me. So I got to just chirp all the Eagles fans. You lost to the Jets. Oh my God. So that was fun. But crazy. But they both had a good week. And Zach Wilson looking half decent.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the only decision Bobby has to make moving forward is who's going to be quarterback. Because I think a fully healthy Saquon replaces Kamara in the lineup. He'll probably stick with Breece. But if one of those guys is out, which in football, you have four good running backs, one might be hurt at any time. That's going to be easy to plug, but he's going to have to pick a quarterback every week. And there's going to be weeks where Purdy goes off on his bench, weeks where Dak goes off on his bench.
Yep.
And that can be tough. It's probably not going to hurt him in the regular season, but come playoffs, it's going to be interesting to see who he goes with. Is he going to play matchup? Is he going to play, the talent? Is he going to stick with Purdy? But we'll see. He's got a good team.
Yeah, he's definitely got
not the best team.
Oh, okay. It's definitely up there. How is it the best team? I don't know. So we'll move on to the next matchup here. This is it was the back-to-back championship matchup, man. And to see them both be sorry motherfuckers right now, it's kind of devastating actually. But we had Jimmy's 2-pint conversion winning this one over Jimmy DeVito's Good Kid Fab City, winning 91.20, ew, to 71.44. Ew.
So I have no comments on the matchup. I'm just gonna give comments on the teams because I think that's where these two are at.
Yeah.
And so I was doing I was scanning over the teams. I think DeVito, obviously, you can't take anything away. He's the two-time champ. He's the only champ of DFL history.
Yeah.
So this isn't a slight, but I do think he's a ways away at this. Clearly, like he's gonna need in if he wants to be competitive in the next 3 years, he's gonna need three major like late breakouts because I just don't. He's gonna have to build it back up or hit on everything. Brzezinski, on the other hand, I think is going to be a playoff team next year. I think easily is a playoff team next year. And I think one of his tight ends, whether it's Musgrave or Ferguson, is going to be a top 10 tight end moving forward for a ton of years. One of them, I don't know who, but I think he has good depth there and he has the picks. He doesn't have to worry about it taking a tight end in the draft. They take a while to develop. I think he is.
Unless you're Sam Laporta.
That's not the rule. That's the exception.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think Brzezinski has a winning formula here.
Yeah.
With his roster.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I honestly think Brzezinski is like a top 2 dynasty manager in the league in terms of even when he's bad, it's like it makes sense to be bad. And I mean, like you said, I mean he has honestly a myriad of assets to go really in any direction he wants. If he really wanted, he could just decide to go for it this year. I doubt he will do that, but he could. That's just how many pieces he does have. But I do think he's going to take the safe route and build through the draft and just continue to build up. And I agree, man. He does have enough pieces to get right back in the driver's seat as soon as next season. Once Superflex rolls around, oh man,
you're talking. Well, yeah, if you roll out with Burrow and Richardson as two quarterbacks,
yeah,
and you have 4 draft picks in the first round,
yeah,
you can take a Caleb Williams and not start him. You can throw a Marvin Harrison right into your lineup. You can take 2 receivers. You can go out and trade some depth and on one of the 4 picks for a receiver or for a running back.
Yeah,
he'll be able to build his team next year how he wants it.
Right. And yeah, I don't want to go too in depth on that. The players on their teams, especially on DeVito's team, but yeah, gross. But yeah, couldn't agree more, man. Brzezinski will be right back at the top sooner as opposed to later, 100%.
Yeah, and it's gonna come down to DeVito's gonna need his 2 quarterbacks to both pan out, or he's in trouble.
Yep, agreed. So for our next matchup here, we'll talk about my team, the Rogaz Renegade, pulling up to 6-0 with a win over Alexis the Dumpster Fire, only putting up 81.24. So yeah, I mean, this was I'll just say real quick, this was definitely a disappointing week for me. I still put up over 130, which I like, but you know, when I'm getting less than 5 points from Devontae Adams, like that's unacceptable. I understand he got leveled in this game and also still coming back from a shoulder injury. So I understand all that, but it's just like he's supposed to be like a top 5 NFL receiver. Maybe not in fantasy. I'm not saying he'll be a top 5 fantasy receiver, but he's still regarded talent-wise, you know, to be that guy. So just kind of frustrating. And obviously Calvin Ridley has also been super up and down.
That's what I was going to bring up. I'm shocked, especially, I mean, I know, you start hot early. He had the big week 1 and it seems like, it's going to be a cakewalk. But I mean, I'm looking at his numbers, 2 receptions, 3 receptions, 2 receptions, 7-4 since that first week.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me, but he's going with the Jaguars and I think Trevor Lawrence has struggled. I think he's beat up now. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on for you for sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually moved, it's getting a little bit ahead, but I actually moved Ridley to my flex. He usually was like a starting 3 receiver, but I have him in my flex just in case Lawrence doesn't go or he's like, oh, I'm not 100%. I'm not going to start Ridley if T-Law is not 100% ready to go.
Who's their backup? David Gerard.
I have no idea, to be
No,
honest with you.
that guy's from like
I-
2 decades.
Yeah, Gerard, he was the one with the Hail Mary. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
But
gonna check that while you're going on. But
yeah.
I wanted to say actually on Alexi's team,
Mhm.
I think he's another rebuilder who it looks ugly, but he's doing it the right way because he has no running backs. You shouldn't have running backs if you're at the point he's at, because by the time those running backs, in a few years they'll probably be nearing the end.
Right.
So I think he's got a lack of quarterbacks, which is good for the max points, and he has a lot of upside at receiver. I mean, I like Downs. You never know what Rice is going to be.
Yeah.
Osborne's a good fill-in. I don't think he's a stud. And then Michael Wilson looks good. So he's got a lot of picks in the next few years. And he's rebuilding the right way. He's an example of when you go for it and it doesn't reward you or look as pretty as, say, my team did last year.
Right.
He went for it, but he's doing a good job with what he has.
Right.
But he'll probably go 0-14 this year.
Likely, yeah. I also just want to say, I mean, Quentin Johnston, man, no receptions.
That's what I want to bring up.
Yeah, and coming off a bye week too. So you think like after the bye, you're thinking, how can we get Quentin Johnston more involved? Our first round pick, obviously no Mike Williams, lost for the season. Yes, Eckler came back, but what's going on here, man? I mean, the debate was between, is it going to be him or Addison? And
he's taken before Addison in the draft in real life too. So
yeah, right.
It to me it did seem like a head scratching draft pick, to be honest. I understand. I think teams get worried about finding a guy's replacement before they're gone, and I know Mike Williams is hurt, but is Quentin Johnston what the Chargers needed? A team that's been stuck in this rut for how long?
Yeah.
They're just going to go with another receiver. It's like the Vikings were whiffing on cornerbacks first round every year.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually you got to change something up. I know they're not just drafting receivers, but is that what they needed?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's frustrating, man. For someone who obviously is not a Chargers fan, but invested in the Chargers development.
They have names on the defense now. They have Khalil Mack.
Right.
They have Bosa, right?
Yep. Joey Bosa. Yep. They have a lot of pieces for sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Alexi moving forward. I definitely think he's at minimum 3-4 years away. Honestly.
Yeah.
With what he has going on right now.
Yeah, him and DeVito are probably looking at the same time frame. I think DeVito has more picks, and I like the receivers that Alexi has, but they're the two furthest away, and I think Rosinski is doing the short rebuild.
All right, so for our next matchup here, we had Chicken Parmesan getting it done over Fossil Fuel, winning this one 147.74 to 113.54. Carmine, I mean, definitely had a lot of his guys show up in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, Carmine was the Commish's first number one in the power rankings.
Yep.
He has good receiver depth, and I think I mentioned earlier, I think Addison is going to get a lot of big play usage and red zone usage with Jefferson out.
Yep.
I think Carmine, while Madison's he's doing okay for him for now. I think once Cam Akers gets more into the playbook, they might start to use him more because he's just been average. He's just been so average. He drops passes, easy screens.
Yeah.
He's just not reliable.
Medicine.
Medicine. But Carmine has enough players. I think both of these teams have a very similar issue in that I think running back gets a little thin. I'm looking at Justin's team right now. I don't know who he's starting at running back next to Ezekiel Elliott. He's got Jalen Warren, who I think is a good player moving forward. I think he'll be the starter next year.
Right.
I think he's on bye. He's got Wilson on IR. We'll see if he comes back. He's got Herbert on IR. Mm-hmm. He's got Montgomery out. So he's probably going to make a play at Craig Reynolds, right? Am I blanking on we talked about him earlier?
Yep. Craig Reynolds.
But he's thin at running back, and he's going to need all his receivers to show up every week, and they're not necessarily studs. Mm-hmm. He's proved everyone wrong. I'm not talking trash on his team.
Yeah.
Just think this is what happens when you get later into the season, and it's about sneaking into the playoffs and getting hot. If he can withstand the injuries,
Yeah.
then he can win it all. But when you look at a team like Carmine, the receivers are more comforting
Yeah.
when you are maybe starting a throw in at running back.
Right. Yeah. I was just gonna say, I mean, just the name wise, I mean, we're talking just the first two names. I mean, obviously, no disrespect to Adam Thielen. I mean, that guy is having a resurgence to say the
Of
least. That
course.
guy is
Well,
killing it this year.
he's all they have to throw there, and
Right.
that's really what it's been.
Yeah.
He's perfect for that team right now.
Yeah. And I mean, fantasy wise, it's like absolutely unreal. Like literally number 3 in fantasy. Who saw that coming? Literally no one. Everyone's like, oh, he's
No,
dead. He's dead. Like
no,
killing it right
these
now.
these numbers are monstrous. The numbers
Yeah.
he's putting up right now. I don't know if he'll do that all year.
Right.
He's also someone who's had some of the injury bug. He didn't last year. He stayed healthy last year. I'm looking at it now.
Yep.
But I think he's broken down late into the season a few times, but
Yeah.
he's tough. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to write him off. I probably
Right.
did,
Mhm.
and no longer.
Yeah. And obviously, Jacoby Myers kind of followed up last week with another solid performance against New England. 5 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown with 17.10. I mean, again, Devontae Adams still kind of eh. And I mean, Jacoby Myers definitely getting a lot of love right now. So will this be sustainable? I mean, you got to expect Devontae Adams will go back to being the 30% target guy sooner than later, you'd think.
Yeah, I think you could also though look at, and I know that they both have a Ram, but you could look at the quarterbacks here, and if Jimmy, like we talked about Jimmy G, if he's going to be hurt,
Right.
does that hurt Jacoby Myers? Adam Thielen's got Bryce Young throwing to him. He's looked okay.
Yeah.
He makes some nice throws, but they're not a good team.
Yep.
When you look at a guy like that's why probably AJ Brown is the most comforting piece here because he's in a high powered offense unless
Yep.
they play the Jets. But yeah, it's just going to come down to a week to week thing. It's the boring thing to say, but
Yeah, it's true though. I mean, and like the battle of the Rams receivers, that was definitely something to watch for this matchup. And I mean, Cooper Kupp, I mean, obviously he's the guy there for sure, dropping 27.8 for
yeah,
Carmine. 7 receptions, 148 yards, touchdown. And you contrast that with Puka Nacua, who obviously has been killing it all year. Kind of his first like, kind of game.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. I mean, you've never seen someone do what he did.
Right.
I don't think I'm well versed enough in like rookie breakouts to know if there's ever been a guy who started elite for 6 weeks and then completely disappeared.
Right.
But we've seen it happen, and just as possible as he falls off, he could just be a really good receiver for a
Yeah.
long time. And this could be one of the best waiver claims in league history. It
Yeah.
already probably is.
Yeah. I definitely I don't think he's like completely disappearing. I mean, he still had 7 targets. Like he's still getting love from Stafford. I will just say, historically, like Stafford has shown to kind of like key in on that one guy throughout his career. Obviously,
He's had some pretty good one guys though.
Yeah, no, exactly. So but I mean to see Puka still get 7 targets, obviously didn't do anything with it. Only 4 receptions for 26 yards, only giving you 6.6 in fantasy. Not ideal. But another name I kind of want to shout out here just because people were kind of sleeping on him, but he's coming back now, 3 weeks in a row of like pretty stellar performances. Dalton Schultz, man, tight end for the Texans, 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a tutty, giving you 16.10. I mean, pretty solid, man. If this can continue, I know obviously the Texans got a bye this week, but yeah, I mean, he's obviously I always thought he was pretty good with Dallas. So to see him kind of picking up a little bit where he left off this part of the season, definitely got to be encouraging for Justin for sure.
Yeah, he's someone that I almost scratched my head about why he didn't get more love, maybe even probably from myself. But just looking back, and tight ends are so inconsistent, and you're gonna get bad weeks. But He put up a lot of good weeks in the last few years, and I think it's the perfect guy to have for a rookie quarterback. And Stroud is not really airing the ball out a ton yet, and so Dalton Schultz is perfect for him. Um, I think they've struggled running the ball. Pierce hasn't been as hot,
It's been
but
night and day this year with Pierce. It's kind of
yeah,
crazy. I mean, Singletary getting a lot of work now too. So for Rob's case, I know we talked about him earlier, but for Rob's case, I mean, I don't know, Pierce the rest of the year. I mean, that might be something that holds him back for Grogan, honestly.
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
comes like it's going to come down. Grogan has hit on a lot of pieces that Burke's trade is probably still in
yeah,
his
oh yeah,
favor,
yeah, for sure.
but he has a ton of running back options, and he'll probably have one or two produce
Yep,
every week, and it's all you can ask for in his spot until you have the elite lineup.
yeah, definitely, man. But with that, we had our pick'ems, man. I will just say me and Jimmy both went 6-0 this week in our picks. So we did have a minor shakeup in the standings, but Justin is still atop of the board. Andrew, I know you're gonna start picking this week, but Justin's sitting at 28-6, still in first place. Second, you have myself at 27-9. Third, Mr. Rich at 25-11. Fourth, Mr. Jim at 24-12. And then obviously at the bottom, joining several weeks late, but Bob, after going 5-1 this past week in his picks, is now at 8-4. So yeah, man, definitely interesting. We'll see if I could overtake Justin after this week of picking. We do have some different picks for week 7. But before we get into that, man, we have to talk about the power rankings. Granted, not much of a change here, but Andrew, since you're here, it is the Commish power rankings. So why don't you just talk about your rationale here and take us through the whole thing?
Well, just to be clear, first and foremost, I don't make the rules. This is just how it works.
Okay.
No, but I was looking everything over, and take a few things into account. Personal bias definitely not taken into account. I look at max points for, I look at points for, and I look at wins. I'm not really worried about head-to-head matchup, who beat who, until someone takes out number one, the 6-0 team. But yeah, I think it was kind of just in line with where things stood this week. You're going to be first in the power rankings until you lose. Bobby's clearly the most powerful team right now. And then you have the two teams at, let me take a look at it. Forget where I know I had Carmine is up there, and then it's Jason, right? The two 5-1 teams.
Yep.
Richie, I have over Justin, or what did I have Justin over Richie still?
You have Justin over Rich.
Yeah. And so that's one where Justin's the hot team. Richie probably looks better long term.
Yep.
Especially with the running back thing. But I think Justin has earned his spot there. But it's tough. There's 4, 3, and 3 teams that you could probably put any of them anywhere. Obviously, without Jefferson, I'm gonna put myself at the bottom of those 4 until we know more there. But yeah, the bottom of the league, there's no shake up there.
Yeah.
Grogan had a big week, but he probably won't have those giant weeks often. I think he'll be a consistent team this year, better than he was last year still.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely better than last year. But I think just given how dominant most of the league is compared to last year, like last year we were like very top heavy. This year it just seems like all very well balanced all throughout. Honestly, it's gonna be so sweaty this year. Grogan will still put up decent points, but I just don't think it'll be good enough for him.
It's going to come down to who has the unfortunate duds and who can take advantage of those. And you have to look at things. I know people were talking about tough schedules. All that sounds like to me is that everyone's going to eat each other alive, and someone that doesn't deserve it's going to sneak in. and there's going to be something funky in this new wild card week. So I'm definitely excited to see. Who knows? Grogan is one game out of the playoff.
Right.
Who says Grogan can't be the fifth seed if everyone's beating each other up and we have 500 teams at the end of the year? Could happen.
It definitely could, man. So yeah, I'm not ruling anything out. And obviously Grogan has put up pretty decent points the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. I definitely think I know we said it last week with Justin, but yeah, there's at least like 7 to 8 teams that are definitely viable to be in the playoffs, which is crazy. Honestly, everyone other than the bottom 3, in my opinion. Like I would say the 2 Jimmys and Alexi are the only teams I don't see have any chance to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know?
Yeah, I would
So-
say it's probably you're looking at you, Carmine, and Jason and Bobby. That's probably the top 4. I think at this point it's tough if any of those teams don't make it, but
Yep.
with an injury or two to Jason or Carmine, you never know. I think you probably are the most solid, but a 3-game lead. What do we have? 8 games to go.
Yeah.
No
Running out of
one's
time.
no one's like separated completely where it's like they won't make the play. Bobby has to make the playoffs because his roster is there. I think
Yeah.
you have to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Carmine and Jason look strong, and then it's going to be a free for all for the 5th spot. That's how things look.
Yeah.
You never know. We still have a trade deadline to get through, so see what happens.
Yeah, man. And that's week 11, I believe, right? Is the
Yes.
deadline? Yeah. So obviously we're only in week 7. So some of these teams, man, it might make that real big push. But looking around the league, man, like I said, with all the competitiveness, it's tough to see a big name being moved to a contending team.
And with the move to Superflex, I don't think there's going to be a crazy deadline. I think that people are going to hold their pieces and see what happens this offseason.
Yeah.
And looking around the league, there's the depth player is not as valuable as it was the first few years because everyone kind of started on a more even playing foot. Then it got unbalanced. And now some of those top teams already have 5 receivers. Do they need to trade for a 6th one? So
Right.
I'm looking around the league, and if no one's going to pay me what I want for Terry, why am I going to sell him for nothing to someone just to stash him on the bench?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a stalemate depending on injuries. If there's an injury and a bad team has a player who time opens up for, it's the only real big trade I could see happening. Maybe Zach Evans, something like that, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the deadline will be as hot as it has been the last 2 years, but again, only time will tell.
Yeah, you never know because you could
Yeah.
see someone, a team like Senia or like Justin, something doesn't go their way. Maybe they get a ransom for, an Adam Thielen or for Derrick Henry.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, very true. But Andrew, with that, you gotta look at week 7 here because we have, I would say, some good matchups, but matchup of the week here is definitely very hot, very contested, very, very some bad blood is brewing here. So let's get right into it, man. We have my team for the first time this season at 6-0, finally, matchup of the week. We got the Rogaz Renegade and Rags to Riches.
I'm looking
stands out to you, man.
What stands out to me, and I'll have to look at it closer. This is just from a first glance. There's a lot of dark green under Richie's matchups for his players. A lot of good matchups. You have Tua and the Dolphins going up against Philly. Philly's got a good defense, but that might be a high scoring game. You have Jacobs going against Chicago defense, Walker against Arizona defense. You have, forget it, Ayuk against the Vikings. Forget it. If Debo's out, there's a lot of green matchups there. And I think that could come into play. This is a coin toss. Are we giving picks now? So I think
not yet. Not yet. You can hang on to it.
There's some green on Richie's side. There's some question marks, some questionable, some potential outs on the Rogas side. So we'll see where things swing, but this is definitely matchup of the week. I'd say my player to watch. We'll see if Swift can keep this up on your side. And from Richie's side, I think Jacobs needs to have a domination week against the Bears.
Yeah. He's got some good matchups. I like my matchups too. Really gonna come down to Thursday night. I'm looking at Chris Olave. I mean, he's been kind of having a bit some iffiness, but then last week kind of got back on track. Not right away, but he did eventually get back on track. And we'll see. I mean, right now he's got dealing with a bit of a toe issue. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And for him to be playing on Thursday, obviously soon. So I'd like to see him get a full practice in, by tomorrow.
Yeah, if he doesn't, it would be nice for a guy like Rashid Shaheed. So
yeah, I'm sure it would. But I am expecting Aaron Jones to play against the Broncos. I am going to start him over Jonathan Taylor unless something catastrophic were to change. Jonathan Taylor, the Colts are playing the Browns. So yeah, he's going to be I'm waiting for him to get that full workload, which he doesn't have just yet. He might get it this week, but again, tough matchup. So in a game where I'm definitely expecting myself to win, I'm going to give myself the best chance to do that. And I think Aaron Jones, if he's fully healthy, keeping an eye on his practice status this week, against a very exploitable matchup. Looking at those two guys, Olave and Jones. And yeah, I mean, you said Jacobs. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Sunday Night Football. We got a lot of players going. I mean, I got Tyreek Hill and Swift, and Richie's got Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. So, and obviously Tua.
And Tua.
So, yeah. So it's just Sunday Night Football is going to be a lot of back and forth, I'm sure, in the chat between me and Rich,
and then even Monday, you're gonna have Kittle versus Hawk, and he has Ayuk.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a prime time affair.
Yeah. I just need if T-Law does play, I will keep Ridley in my flex, and I'm just gonna need big performances from both of those guys, especially from like I did highlight Olave, but Ridley, I need him to be the guy that I know he is. And yeah, in a game that is huge for me. But with that, Andrew, why don't you take it away here? I already think I know where you're going, but who are you taking for week 7 matchup of the week?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna stray from you. I'm gonna go with Richie. I think that this though will come down to which tight end scores a touchdown on Monday Night Football. I think that's where the winner goes. One of those two tight ends scores a touchdown. That's who wins the game. That's my bold prediction.
Okay.
I'm going to try to get crazy with these predictions. I'm going to go, if I get that right, it's 2 points.
Okay. I'm not going to go there because you're not alone taking Rich. So I will say Jimmy also going Rich. Obviously, Richie taking himself. Justin is taking Rich too. So
now I don't feel good about it. It's just like on the bottom of the ticker. So
Richie's now officially the favorite for this matchup, according to the guys who make the picks. I'm obviously taking myself, and not only am I taking myself, I guarantee I will win. Enough of this fucking bullshit. All right. Everyone wants me to fail. Everyone wants me to lose. Oh man, the matchups. No, I'm a better team than Rich. And that's it. I'm gonna take care of business. I'm done. That's it.
I love it.
Best. I'm 6-0. About to be 7-0. I got a streak to beat, man. I'm about to be 10-0. Best fucking believe. All right.
All right. I'll say this. Rich by 2.72.
Yeah. Me by 10 plus. Okay. Yeah. I gotta take care of business. And me and Bob are taking the Rogas Renegade for matchup of the week. Yeah, Rich, you're going down, bitch. Sorry. Not here again. Not here again. That's tough.
I have no problem with that. I think that's the true coin toss of the week.
It's gonna be a good matchup. I love you, Rich. All right. Let's move on to the next one.
Can I pick the next matchup?
Yeah.
Because I want to roll back on something I said earlier.
Okay.
and I know he's gonna hate me for this. I know he's gonna hate me for this,
What's he got? What's up?
but I want to talk about Team Gunner Grogan versus Dumpster Fire this week.
Oh wow, yeah.
Um, because I was looking at some of the matchups,
Mhm.
and Grogan's receiver room, he has the most buys I've ever seen in a fantasy week. His receiver room is going to be Paris Campbell and Powell on the Vikings, who I forget his first name is Brandon. I always want to call him Bilal.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
I I know we were talking about the matchups here, and I know I said earlier that Alexi was going to go 0-14. I think he's going to win. I think this is a week that he could win. Just Osborne has stepped into a bigger role. I think every Chiefs receiver is a dice roll. Mayer was getting some play. Johnson, we've said, listen, neither of these teams is going to be pretty, but I think again this could be a coin flip. Grogan has the bigger names, but his depth is tough this week.
Yeah.
So I'll highlight. He's going to need if St. Brown has the monster game like he had last week, he'll win the game. If KJ Osborne can fill the role better than he did last week because it wasn't too impressive, then we'll see. Because the Vikings they're gonna have to throw the ball. They're gonna be down against San Fran. So.
Yeah.
Sorry to kind of jump ahead and give my pick, but
Yeah.
that matchup is just it's disgusting to pick Alexi team. No offense, because Rob has the better players, but this is just a tough week with Williams out and his whole team on bye.
Yeah, man. If there was ever a game that Alexi can win, I 100% agree. It's gonna be this one. I mean, like I said, even though it's a tough matchup, Zach Moss is still getting work. Josh Downs, like him a lot. I know we talked about him earlier. I think he's becoming a real factor in that offense. Michael Mayer kind of had a real nice game last week, and now against Chicago, I mean, he definitely should have a chance to exploit some of that defense. I also don't expect Quentin Johnson to not have a catch again. So
I would, even though looking at it now, I would put Wilson in the lineup over Johnson. I like Wilson a lot. Their offense is not pretty, but there's something to when the team is behind a player like the Cardinals seem to have liked Wilson. I read about it in preseason, and you read that about a lot of guys, so you could take it with a grain of salt. But a rookie receiver, 90% of the snaps in week 1, and they've used him. He's been involved.
Right.
That's a guy that I would look to have in my lineup every week, especially with max points for. You're not trying to lose.
Right.
So you may as well. I think he's exciting to watch.
So in the end, you are going with Alexi.
Yeah, I'm going to take Alexi. I'm sorry, Grogan. It's no offense. I think Grogan is a sneaky team, but he needs to win this week. He needs St. Brown to save him from the buys.
So I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm the only one picking Rob.
This makes me feel terrible. I think Kev, you're gonna sweep the board.
I really might. So I mean, everyone, Bob, Justin, Richie, Justin, everyone's taking Alexi. Wow. And I think that's fucking crazy. Don't get me wrong. I understand it. Rob's missing out a lot of guys. I get it. Seeing Brandon Powell and Paris Campbell in the starting lineup is gross. Seeing Justice Hill in the starting lineup is disgusting. But at the end of the day, man, we were talking about Jared Goff just a couple minutes ago. Jared Goff and has with the Amon-Ra stack. Isaiah Pacheco has been playing really well. Jonnu Smith has been playing pretty consistent. He's a top 10 fantasy tight end right now. Jaden Reed, I mean, he's up and down, but can I see him having a good matchup against the Broncos? Yeah. Yeah. All right. He needs to get a new kicker. All right. Pick up a kicker off waivers.
I do just want to bring one thing up. So I've been doing a lot of reading lately into how teams give up fantasy points. And so I've been using this resource I'm not going to name because I don't give secrets away. But the Ravens have allowed 20% below what's expected from opposing quarterbacks. And
Okay.
I'd have to look at who they've faced because obviously that factors.
Yeah.
The Ravens have allowed less than 10 points a game from quarterbacks in
Wow.
fantasy.
Wow.
So that's something to watch with his big player being St. Brown.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to look at it from a receiver standpoint, I'm just going to pull this up. Seems like they do about average as they're expected. So maybe it's more for Goff that is the matchup to watch is Goff versus the Ravens is going to be what Grogan probably depends on.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I mean, obviously the Ravens are a solid defense and like historically are good. But yeah, man, I can't believe I'm the only one picking Grogan. I understand the reasoning, but like Baker Mayfield, I mean, his hand is kind of iffy right now. I mean, is he going to play? I'm sure, but he might be limited.
Well,
Samaje Perine, like, what are we talking about here? You know, like,
I mean, you got it. There has to be some sort of if Baker Mayfield doesn't play, I can't pick Alexi.
well, but that's why we're making this pick on a Tuesday. So that's what adds to the you know the mystique of it. You know, it's usually well before we have a chance to really have a a real educated guess. You know, as educated as we can be anyway. But
All right, I'll stick with
so
Alexi.
you gotta stick with your pick, man. Yeah. So Grogan, I am the only one who believes in you to beat the worst team in the league. Just want that to be on record. All right. Moving on here. Next matchup, we'll talk about the 2-pint conversion. Jimmy Rosinski playing against Senia's greatness to be determined.
Yeah. Hopefully Senia has a quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously again, when your teams like Rosinski are probably leaning towards not being competitive against the higher scoring teams, but you can't say he has no chance.
Right.
It's not a great looking week without Joe Burrow. This is probably going to be unanimous. Everyone's probably going to lean towards the Senia side.
Yep.
His depth is not the hottest right now. Seems like he has the wrong handcuff from San Fran. Cam Akers in the lineup right now, which I guess when we get to buys, there's just going to be certain teams are just going to have to throw those guys in.
Right.
I said Cam Akers will be more involved, not yet, but yeah, I'll highlight just because I like him. I think Luke Musgrave has a good week for Green Bay. I think he's going to be a stud. Maybe not like a elite or flashy, but just
Right.
consistent. And yeah, I'm curious to see if Amari Cooper can keep things up. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be next week. I don't know what is going on in Cleveland, but he had a sick catch that wasn't the best throw from
Right,
PJ
yeah.
Walker.
Yeah.
But he's not the most reliable right now in that offense.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna highlight on Jimmy's side, George Pickens. I mean, he's been pretty exciting. Now coming off the bye, I think he's gonna play pretty well against a Rams defense that has been pretty exploitable for the most part this year. So gonna be fun, I think, for him. I don't know Deontay Johnson's status yet. I don't know if he's still out or not. I think
Pickens Pickens just seemed like one of those guys that people, I don't know, weren't giving enough credit because he wasn't, putting up giant numbers his rookie year, but
right.
he put up a lot in a rookie year for what you're looking for moving forward. So yeah, I think Pickens is probably a better long-term play than people give credit.
Yeah, I would agree. And as a guy who is not a Pickens believer, he's proven to be very talented for sure.
Yeah, and touchdowns are something that's going to come and go with how the team plays.
Yeah.
And right now they're not a high-scoring offense, so he's not going to score a lot of touchdowns. But it's a receiver. He's 22. I was just looking at it.
Right.
In 4 years, he could be in a high-powered offense with the Steelers or with someone else, and you never know. No, we could go back and do this all day with guys like Puka or
right.
Stephon Diggs was a 6th-round pick. Adam Thielen was undrafted on special teams for a year. It's fantasy football. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
why the favorites hate it and why it's fun for someone like me right now who's like, oh, I can sneak Tony in the lineup and get a touchdown. Who knows if that'll piss Jason off. So just two sides of fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I was just gonna say we're all picking Senia. So
Yeah.
just kind of take care of business, move on, get a win,
Yep.
keep it moving. All
So
right.
next one.
Yeah, next matchup, we'll talk about you, man. The Chrome Future, Mr. Commish, up against Chicken Parmesan. Obviously Carmine's sitting at 5-1, with hopes to be 6-1, obviously. So Andrew, who on your team are you keeping an eye on?
This week, I want to see if Rashid Shaheed can finally get more involved because he does a lot with his touches. There's been
He does.
the few games where he gets more than two targets, but he doesn't seem to ever put together a big game. But he's a big play guy. Um, and I think there's a trend with guys who are used in special teams in their rookie year that aren't good enough to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that they trust him. I was looking at it; they're starting to put him on the field more. There's not a lot of exciting pieces on my team right now, but if Shaheed can turn into more than a dart throw, that would be nice for me. Um, yeah, I think Carmine's going to probably smoke me, but the storyline for Carmine moving forward, now that I look at his team, is going to be the quarterback. I'm shocked that I'm saying that, but
Yeah.
he's going to have decisions on probably the matchup, and he's got Watson in the lineup now, but it's nice being able to just throw Josh Allen, whatever people think of him. It's nice just being able to
Yeah.
throw a guy in there, but I'll highlight his quarterback and I'll highlight I need to have a miracle from Shaheed or Tony if those are who I play. So I
Yeah.
have a lot of dart throws.
Yes.
Jameson
uh,
Williams, though, is also another guy. Does a lot with his touches. It's
True.
I'm playing the long game right now with a lot of these guys, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm gonna say right now Brian Robinson is gonna have a day against the Giants. I think he's gonna have 2 touchdowns.
All right, I'll
Yeah,
take that.
yeah,
Many men.
and yeah. And Carmine's side, I'm just gonna look at I don't want to take someone like super obvious, but I'm actually gonna look at Hollywood Brown. I think the Seattle Cardinals game is gonna turn out to be a bit of a shootout. I think they usually are in that division. So that could be a fun game. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
Hollywood Brown, another guy just getting loaded with targets. A
Right,
guy that I
exactly.
probably didn't put a lot of stock into, and that the situation helps.
Yeah, not for sure.
Yeah,
So
is it
Andrew,
Carmine across the board?
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, you taking
I
it
agree.
too?
Yeah,
Yeah, respect, respect. All right. So next matchup here, we'll talk about Jason's Bijan Mustardson against Justin's Fossil Fuel. Another 5-1 team looking to improve his record with Jason.
yeah, and we're both kind of looking at this now. It looks like Justin is looking at Deontay Johnson coming back.
Right. So that
He's
answers
off.
my question. Yeah. So he really
Yeah.
might be back. Yeah. Okay.
Um, again, I think we kind of previewed this. Um, I don't know what I was looking at before with the bye week. I guess I was looking at the wrong week with Justin's team, so we can disregard that. Jalen Warren's not on bye. I was looking at last week's lineup. Um, but he's going to need production out of his running backs. We've seen it from his receivers, but he's got two guys that are in true splits right now. And yeah, with Jason's team, it's revving right now, but looks like he's got some buys as well. So the more the buys trickle in, the tougher these matchups get. Um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm interested to see if Mostert can keep things going. This is going to be the first tough defense he's played all year.
Yep. Agreed. You took who I was gonna also say, Mostert, but I'm curious to see Zay Flowers, I'll say, against the Lions. And, just that matchup, if, the Ravens start scoring, and Jared Goff has to sling it more, we'll see if Jared Goff can overcome that stat you mentioned. So I'll see if Zay Flowers can get going with Lamar. And Justin's side, I mean, yeah, let's see if Nakua can bounce back. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how that goes moving forward. Definitely the first time everyone's like a collective, like, like kind of like he's a human. He's human. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
You know?
it's tough because I assume a lot of people here, if not everyone, are probably going to lean Jason. And I don't want to write off Justin's team here.
Mhm.
I think that Miami matchup for Hurts, we'll see. He's such a difference maker if he can get a few 1 yard touchdowns, and you never know when that can happen.
Right.
So I'll say I would love to see Jason put Kareem Hunt in the lineup over Gibbs, regardless of Gibbs's injury status.
Mhm.
And because of that fact, I'm going to be an outlaw. I'm going to say that Justin surprises people this week. I think Jalen Warren is slowly just going to phase Najee Harris out.
I like it,
Touchdown for
man.
Gesicki
Yeah.
from Malik
You're
Cunningham.
you're not alone picking Justin, man. You got you. Jimmy is also going to take Justin, and Justin will take himself as well. But me, Bob, and Rich are all taking Jay to win this one. So, yeah, gonna be interesting, man. Gonna definitely be a solid matchup. All right, man. Our last matchup here, we have Bob's the Redeem team up against DeVito's Good Kid Fab City.
Bob.
Yeah, I feel like we don't even really need to talk about it. This is definitely dud of the week for week 7. I mean, I'll humor it. Yeah, on DeVito's side, hey, Roshan Johnson might play.
Yeah.
He's coming off a concussion. Maybe he plays. DeVito traded a first for him, and he was not a first round pick in our draft. So
I think Bob could start Sam Darnold this week and win. It's no disrespect. It's just that's what DeVito's plan is this year. It's not pretty. I think it'd be disingenuous if he started a bad lineup on purpose. I wouldn't lie. I think it would be funny if like he's starting the San Fran fullback and Boston Scott would be hilarious. But yeah, it's probably going to be like you said, the dud of the week.
yeah, yeah, it's a top 2 team for sure against a bottom 2 team for sure. Bobby in an absolute blowout. It would not even. That doesn't even really do it justice of what it's going to be. I know I said that about him against Rob, but that was just me kind of like trolling a little bit. This will actually be embarrassing. Like,
yeah,
might be the biggest differential that we've seen.
I'll still give a player to watch on both sides because I think it's still worth it. I think that I'm interested to see what Saquon does, because obviously the talent is there, but he's not been what Bobby traded for. Diggs has been, but Saquon hasn't yet.
Yeah.
And then from DeVito's side, let's see who are we gonna highlight? Let's highlight Jerry Jeudy, because I think Steve Smith murdered him. I think he's done.
He needs to have a bounce back to maybe prove he's not a tier 3 receiver, even though
I think it's over.
It's probably over for him. Yeah, I agree. But I know I talked about Roshan Johnson, but Pat Freiermuth, man, he's been out for a little bit. I know just coming off the bye, but let's see. I mean, he was so highly regarded last year. Like, oh my god, like potentially top 5-ish dynasty tight end. People considered him that. Haven't seen it this year. Obviously, the Steelers stink offensively, but
yeah,
we'll see if he can maybe find the end zone against the Rams. And then on Bob's side, obviously, not picking out the obvious names here. For the first time this season, he has Michael Thomas in the starting lineup, so will be interesting to see how he does. And Michael Thomas is my middle name, so definitely keep an eye on him on Thursday night.
It's so funny because Derek Carr hasn't been incredible this year. I think he's been average.
Yeah.
And yet there's 3 receivers out there who have all kind of chipped in. None of them have really run away with anything this year. That's kind of the appeal right now with Shaheed is that Thomas is getting his targets. I haven't followed much on Olave, but I think it seems like he's been banged up here and there. And Shahid's been kind of the big play guy. Michael Thomas has been the guy. He just doesn't have a touchdown. That's but it's a very odd offense.
Yeah.
For sure. And
Very
Kamara
frustrating. Yeah.
Kamara seems to be the most consistent piece in that 3 weeks out of 6 playing.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely see if that odd offense continues on Thursday night against the Jaguars.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be a totally normal game. Thursday night,
Yeah, of course.
Jaguars,
Yeah,
Saints.
yeah,
What
beautiful.
weird could happen there?
Yeah, nothing at all.
Yeah.
But with that, man, that's all our matchups here. I mean, we're all taking Bob, and I think that goes without saying. I think we said that already, but yeah, we're actually gonna do something a little bit different this instead of just closing it out. Andrew, let's just for the people, it's only week 7, so a lot of things can change here. And like we said, there are a couple teams that they're a bit more solidified, or we say they're gonna be there or should be. But let's try and pick our official playoff teams here. Obviously, 2 years in a row, it's just the 4 teams. This year, we introduce a 5th spot. So, let's go from 5 to 1. Let's try it like that. So,
All right.
who do you see as that last team to sneak their way in and make the playoffs?
I'm probably gonna get some heat from him. He's not gonna love me for this. I'm gonna go my 5 seed will be Bijan Mustardson.
Wow. At 5. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give my explanation. Nothing against Jason. I think, like I've said, like we both said, there's a lot of good teams.
A lot of good teams.
I think a lot of teams at the top are there's not going to be many double-digit win teams, maybe a few 10, 11 win teams, but I don't know. Are we going to get a 12-2 team? Yeah, I'm going to go Bijan Mustardson finishing strong at 5. I think there will end up being a game or 2 gap between Jason and the teams that have missing the playoffs to where he'll be in at the 5 before the last week. That's my prediction.
I like it, man. I'm honestly gonna go on a whim here. I actually just changed my mind, like before I even was about to say anything. At 5, I really want to change my mind again. Yeah, no, I'm
Go with your gut.
I'm gonna go with my gut here. At 5, I'm gonna go with greatness to be determined. I'm gonna say he still makes the playoffs. I'm gonna say, he's had a very up and down season, some unfortunate luck. By the end of the day, man, I know what Austin Eckler is capable of, and he will still be a force. Travis Kelce, that kind of goes without saying, but I don't think Derrick Henry is dead. And guys like Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, I think these guys are still gonna be hanging around. Now, this could easily, I mean, and this is I wanted to make this a bit more interesting because right now Senia is sitting at 8. But that being said, I mean, he's 3-3, and so are you, so is Justin, so is Rich.
It's not a big point. I mean, he's a few points below, but just between me, Justin, and Richie, it's a literally exactly 10 points.
Yep.
Me putting Stevenson in my lineup over Jaleel McLaughlin, and I'm in 5th place, which you don't really think about, and I'm not going to think about any more than when I just realized it right there. But that is swing that it can go to anyone. I'll get into, I think as we go through this a little more, I'll get into why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. But yeah, no, you can't disagree with anyone put there at 5.
5. It's like I said, it's gonna be an absolute sweat. It's gonna come down to the last couple of weeks of the season, and Senia came into this year as like one of those top teams, and yeah, man, I think he's gonna come back a bit with a resurgence. I mean, again, coming off a not so great week this past week, but still getting these wins, man, when he needs them most. So I think he's definitely gonna win this week, and He'll keep him going when he needs him, man. It's close, but yeah, I'm going with Senny at 5, man. So
right.
Andrew, yeah, 4. So now we're getting more of like kind of more the security here.
Yeah, and again, it's tough, but I'm gonna say the next two teams on my list are gonna have the same record,
Okay.
but the points is gonna be the difference.
Mhm.
So the fourth seed playing Jason in the wild card round will be Chicken Parmesan.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I
this
think there's some
comes down to how you order them. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the teams at the top they play each other a lot, and I think that that's going to eat away at the record.
Mhm.
And the team I'll talk about next, I think has the best schedule moving forward for his position.
Mhm.
But I'll let you go with your 4.
Yeah. So at 4 for me, I'm gonna go with chicken parmesan at 4, actually. Yeah. I think, he's definitely gonna be in the playoffs, but
He's got tough matchups. He's
he
going
has
to
tough
play.
matchups. Yeah.
Listen, he'll beat me. He'll beat Alexi, and things will be swimming. Um, but he doesn't finish in the best way. He finishes Bobby, Senia, you. He's going to play Grogan in there. He's going to play Justin and Jason. So after the next 2 weeks, he'll sit at 7-1, and I think he's going to run through a gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely gonna be it's gonna be close.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's going to eat it. It can
It's
go
so
anyway
sweaty, man. Yeah, it's actually
because
so
all these teams
exciting.
could beat each other up, and then, like you
Right.
said, a Senia can sling right into the
Yeah.
playoffs. A
Like,
Grogan can
yeah.
sling right
Like
in.
I know Justin is fuming right now watching this. He's just gonna be like, "Are you kidding me? I'm doubted again." But like Justin can obviously easily be in the playoffs too, and it's no knock on him at all. But yeah, I mean, if you gun to my head, I mean, I still think Senya's team is better than Justin's. I do. Even points aside, like moving forward in the rest of the season, I'm taking Senya, and then yeah, Carmine, his team
So
is obviously proven to be very good.
So yeah, before I get into my number 3, I'll just say this. I think Justin and Senia will tie for missing the playoffs right behind Jason.
Mm,
I think they're both going to end up with a better season than me. But like you've said, and I hate this because it feels like I'm picking the easy answer. It it could swing anyway. I'm not going to be shocked if any of these teams are in the playoffs.
yeah.
I think it's going to take a lot to knock out one of the top 3 in record, and then Bobby being 4-2 but having his roster,
Yep.
so it limits things. And I think with the third spot, I'm going to give it to Rich because Rich has a nice schedule running down the line, and he has a solid team. He has some nice stacks. The Tua stack with Waddle. He plays you next week. He does have the tough matchups like anyone, but he's got DeVito twice. He's got Alexi, and he's got Brzezinski. Those are 4 games he probably should win. Um, so I think Richie has been slept on. I think he had a tough start to the year, but I think he finishes hot like he did last year. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he also has Kittle, who we know is a monster the later we go into the season. So I think Richie will go on a run, and I think this is all going to be very close. Very close. I think he ties record with Carmine, but edges him out with points.
Yeah, I'm taking Jason at 3. So I think after that Jamar Chase trade, man, I just think like
Yeah.
he has an official like bona fide superstar wide receiver 1 to pair with a lot of the other pieces he does have already. Um, I think Jason is more than for real. Mostert was a great pickup. I should have just pushed for it. That was a big mistake on my part. But he didn't say thank you to me. But yeah, once again, you're welcome, Jason, for lowering Mostert's value for you. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what happens with Gibbs. I mean, I do anticipate him to eventually kind of pick it up. He came in with a lot of expectation this year. What was it, the 12th overall pick in the NFL draft for a running back? Like, he has pedigree, and I mean, he looked good at Alabama. So, Obviously, Bijan. I mean, Bijan's in a. I guess you can call him a little bit of a slump. And really, it's just the Falcons, but Bijan is very, very good. Obviously, and yeah, man, a lot of these names that we said that people don't really think about, like Michael Pittman. Like he's been having a real good season, and maybe now with no Anthony Richardson, less rushing attempts, I mean more passing volume, that might be good for Pittman in fantasy. We'll know. We'll never know, but only time will tell, really. But yeah, Jason's team is good, man, and anyone that is sleeping on him is making a big mistake. So I got Jason all the way up at 3 for me.
Yeah, and like you said, there's gonna Justin's not gonna be happy. We both left him out. But I again I could see him making the playoffs. You have Senia in, I have Richie in. You obviously have Richie out. We both have me out. So there's gonna be some 3-3 teams here that aren't happy with this. But I think after
Richie's gonna be 3-4 after this week, so already that's gonna be hurting him. So, then he's got, after that, I think it's just gonna start to spiral down for him after he takes the L to me. So, yeah, that's just how I see it.
Right, so I think that takes us to
So
I'll be at number 2.
So number 2. So I'm gonna let you pick. Obviously, we already know who the top 2 teams should be. Really, just now it comes down to a matter of the order of how we see it finishing. Obviously, I am 1 right now, being 6-0. Bob is 4-2. I guess the question becomes: do you see him leapfrogging me in record to take the number 1 spot?
So I'm gonna say that the number 2 team in record at the end of the year is going to be the Redeem team. I think you just have the lead. I think you got out to the hot start with some nice matchups. Obviously, you have the points against in your favor.
Not denying that. Hey, but now, I'll take top 2 points for any day. So
I think Bobby should finish with the best record this year, but I think that somehow, some way, the epicenter, the Rogaz, is gonna work his way and snake into the 1 seed, and unfortunately, I think that that's gonna work right into Bobby's hands. And I think he's gonna call you the favorite all year. He's gonna be happy in second. He'll probably get a better matchup somehow, being the 2 versus 3 than the 1 versus the 4. So I think you're gonna finish in first, and Bobby's gonna spin it to his favor. That's my ultimate prediction.
Yeah, he's the king of spinning. He's the king of flip flopping. It's whatever. He'll be number 2 because I'm gonna start off 10-0. So yeah, that's a guarantee. And yeah, just wait until Jonathan Taylor's full go.
So I'm looking at your schedule. So you're guaranteeing a win against Richie, against Justin,
yep,
against me,
yep,
and against Grogan. And then you funny enough, why aren't you guaranteeing a win there?
Well, because that's going to be the most powerful team. And I also am down Olave and Taylor. And by then, Taylor, I believe, will be 100%, like 70 to 80% of the work over Zach Moss. So at that point, like saying it now, it's like, well, he's not doing much anyway. By then, Jonathan Taylor will be perceived as, JT, like, top 5 rest of season type, like, player. So not having him for that matchup is huge. But I should have Achane back that week. That's also very big. I'm not saying I'm going to lose that week. I'm just saying I'm not guaranteeing a win that week. It's going to be a very good game. I am going to, spoiler alert, I will take myself to win that week when we get to it, to go 11-0. But that's neither here nor there. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I'll call my shot. I will end the undefeated streak. Chrome Future.
Okay.
On the back of Rashid Shaheed. Wait, no, is he playing that week? On the back of Rashid Shaheed and all the players that you've ever asked me about. I'm going to start McKinnon. I'm going to start Brian Robinson. I'm going to start everyone that you've ever asked me about.
Okay.
And I will for the league end this undefeated streak. I'm going to do it by the grace of a miracle.
So I don't deserve it. Well, you picked Rich, so you already say he's going to break the Rich streak. So you already picked Rich, though. So.
Well, no, I'm saying in your fantasy world,
okay.
Richie is my pick to end it. Although the fact that it seems everyone is picking Richie. Does
Yeah.
not make me feel good about that.
Yeah.
But if you get to me undefeated, I'll take it down. But I mean, now I'm rethinking my power rankings. You might be looking at 3 straight losses here.
Not gonna happen. Sorry. So boys, I hope you enjoyed this little extra little spin we had here for the end. You know, it's gonna be fun, man. Just goes to show. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, this is what he needs right now. Yeah. Just to goes to show how close this league really is. I know I said a million times, but it's gonna be so much fun, absolute sweat. And I love this league. And Andrew, thanks for joining me, man. You were a great guest co-host. And come back again sometime.
Yes, sir. I'll be back. And like I said, Commish doesn't make the rules.
All right, boys. Thanks again for joining us. Tune in next time. See you next week.